The New Hell in 3 Acts, and was inspired by a YouTube browsing session when you're supposed to be writing your novel and you stumble across something on YouTube. And I stumbled across I was looking for cat videos, and I came across a Nazi propaganda film about the Warsaw Ghetto. So this is a poem about that. There's no cats in it. Act 1. In the Novi Azazel Theatre, she becomes Scheherazade, for an audience forced to laugh at 1,001 lies. Soul Star, how does she recite her lines of darkness, knowing argent-lidded eyes will soon turn dull? She clutches a rose. Whoever saw a flower? Pours a glass of wine. We barely had water. Act 2. Sweetest lady of the stage, outside a child hugs the wall, watching rats tiptoe over his mother's corpse. Act 3. A goodly place, a goodly time, until another night in night, when telling the untellable makes even silence vanish. Critics review. An encyclopedia of facts, a decade later, becomes a tale, 70 years on a poem, and tomorrow will only be a word.
Days, my father pissed into bottles. We found them in the morning, hidden in corners behind his chair. The bottle's orifice was small, and he was so drunk. How did he direct his penis straight enough to piss inside the narrow circle of glass? There were never any telltale puddles on the floor. In the morning, my mother lifted each bottle with the tip of her thumb and forefinger and then poured the contents into the toilet, checking first to see that it was not leftover brandy. Her nose twitched. He's disgusting, I said. He's your father, she said, and bent over to press the flush button. Her pink quilted dressing gown was stretched tight against her bum. Underneath, my mother wore a skin-coloured girdle that covered her from above the knee to her shoulder straps. She'd lost her stomach muscles, she said. That was why she was so round in the middle, from all the babies she'd carried. In the smallest hours of the morning, when my father had finally succumbed to a deeper sleep than all his daily catnapping allowed, I snuck into the lounge room and studied his absence. The chair behind which he hid his bottles was now empty. I avoided this chair by day, particularly when he was not in it. And no one else dared occupy it when my father was not there. The chair, a Jacobean reproduction in oak, was propped in the darkest corner of the room. The tapestry cushions bore the imprint of his flat, almost invisible bottom. My father was bottomless through his clothes. His overpressed shiny trousers dribbled down his legs, and his body was like cardboard. What he lacked in bulk, he made up for in height. His huge black shoes, dulled by walking and age, were spread before my feet like open boats. I tried them on for size, careful to place my toes in such a way that no part of my body touched the leather. It was both exciting and terrifying to breach the man's territory, all the while hovering on the edge of being caught.
I'll read 2 from Arrival. Pickle. Wagga Wagga, New South Wales, 1972. Saturday morning. The estate agent delivers the key to the flat she thinks is an apartment. If she wishes to buy food for the weekend, she'd better do it soon. Shops close at noon. Noon. Race to fill car with petrol, not gas. Wash windscreen, not windshield. Open bonnet, not hood. Close boot, not trunk. Up and down Woolworth aisles. No brands to fall back on. No time to decide. Dairy farmers or Poles. Golden Circle or IXL. Rosella or Heinz. She knows Heinz, but why sauce, not ketchup? Jam, not jelly. Biscuits, not cookies. At school, they take her to the tuck shop, not cafeteria. Sausage rolls, meat pies, Vegemite and cheese, anything she likes. Corned beef is familiar. She was raised at Katz's Deli. Hot mustard, crisp pickles, corned beef on rye, piled high. When she opens the small brown bag, it's limp. One sliver of meat and a yellow smear they call pickle inside. 2 slices of bread, white. Kids in the playground eat buttered rolls stuffed with potato chips, cakes she's never heard of. Lamington, Neenish tart, vanilla slice, every day a new idiom. Stone the crows, spit the dummy, knock your socks off, fair tinkle. She tries to fit in, lifts her A's, banana, tomato, grass. Rounds her R's, garbage, plumber. They say, we love your accent. Soon her mother will say, you sound Australian. Her colleagues know better. The other thing I did in 1972 was marry a man my parents hated, but who they insisted I marry. Snap. Hallandale, Florida, 1972. Mama wants a wedding no matter what, even if she hates the groom. She can't have her daughter unmarried living with that man out of wedlock, so far away. The good girl likes being bad, committed, not tied, but she agrees. Restore harmony before she leaves for Australia. A wedding at her parents' Florida apartment. Magistrate Abrams from the Yellow Pages, Jewish Justice of the Peace. The bride wears a mini flowered dress she did not buy for the occasion. The groom jacketed in black and white, check. Photographer, snap. Bride and groom first. He fluffs his shoulder-length hair. She clutches a bouquet of lilies, snap. Sister of the bride, maid of honor, snap. Brother of the bride, best man, snap. The proud parents, mama in white, father in shock, snap. Mama works hard to cater an event no one wants. Champagne, canapes, dinner at a Michelin star. She becomes a wife on January 6. Months later, Mama sends a small white photo album, superglues her daughter to a union that never sticks, snap.
That in the diamond rings he wore on his fingers, even when operating, and the mansion he built in Collins Street, and in his social life. He lost his appointment at the Melbourne Hospital in the 60s because of his involvement in 2 long court cases about a young woman who probably died from an abortion. But he was not committed for that. He got off. But later in 1975, he's reappointed to the Melbourne Hospital. Things are going well. He operates on a man who's got a very large bladder stone, and he gets it out intact. But the man dies. You know, operation successful, but patient dies. He foolishly had a facsimile of the stone made and mounted it in the window of a bookshop in Collins Street.
Oh.
An irate surgeon saw that, wrote a nasty letter to the Argus. It was seen by the Minister for Justice, who said there must be a police inquiry. And there was, and there was an inquest. And Beanie was facing murder or manslaughter. But he was brilliantly defended by a barrister called James Purvis. Now, the houses of these 2 men still stand. Beanie's house is the house of Louis Vuitton on the southeast corner of Collins and Russell Street. Big 4-story house. The house Purvis lived in is called Moss Pennock. It's a beautiful white mansion in East Melbourne behind what we call the Hilton, that is now the Pullman. Mm-hmm. But Beanie, he was an enigma. He left a lot of money to the city of his birth, Canterbury in Kent, particularly to the cathedral, and there's a huge plaque honouring him. And he sits with the angels in that city. And if you go into the High Street, there's a big Tudor building called the Beanie House of Art and Knowledge. So he's well up there in Canterbury. Now in Melbourne, although he gave money to Melbourne University and to Melbourne hospitals. His colleagues at that time rather thought he supped with the devil rather than sat with the angels.
In my story here, the unnamed coastlines, nationalities, and blurred ethnic markers are deliberate, while the details texture a traceable geographical journey. A softening of labels reflects the deeply universal experience of trauma and recovery, and the resulting story intends to be what readers bring to its shores. So just going to read a few segments from different places. Because it's magic realism, I don't want to give away too much. I just wanted to hint and offer a bit of a montage. The first moment here is from part 1, A Sea of Night, and it's the very beginning. I know you are brave, you of the many faces and the one, you who have crossed mountains and seas in the search that always follows the bite. Your story is ready now, steeped in brine and dried upon stones, and its many parts are sung together again for you. Hear it like the wolves calling down the moon, like waves gently caressing a ship on a fine day. See it like a table repaired, each leg guided back into its joint, a place set for all. Believe in a sacred place that's yours, waiting to receive all that you have set out to become. One afternoon, just outside a village quite like this, a child was swallowed whole by a serpent. The young girl's parents were unaware, mere paces from where she played, of what slid through their budding orchard. While her father stacked wood near the barn and while her mother kneaded dough in the kitchen, the unthinkable happened to their only child. The snake, enormous and black, had been roused from a deep, century-old slumber. It woke to the melody of silver charms sewn into the hem of the little girl's dress and nosed up, 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 through a crevice, urged by a terrible hunger to eat that song. It curled against a sun-baked stone in the orchard and waited, still as a fallen tree the serpent watched. Tiny twin reflections of the child hovered on the polished night of those eyes.